Good evening and welcome to the July Congregational meeting. I hope everyone is staying cool and enjoying their summer. Thanks so much for taking your time to be with us tonight. We have a lot of information to share with you, but before we begin, Ben, would you please open us up with a prayer?
Thanks, Karen. Glad to have everybody here tonight. Grateful for you for joining us tonight for this congregational meeting. Please join me now in prayer. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home, we thank you for the gift of Myers Park Baptist Church, for all the people in this sacred community, for all of its lay leaders, deacons, staff, and clergy, for all of its programs and ministries, for its 80-year history of inclusivity, community, spirituality, and justice. And we ask that you send your Spirit to join us this evening as we share the ways that you are moving in and among us as we work to implement the plans that will help to secure a sustainable future for us at this crucial stage in the life of our church. Fill us with wisdom and increased commitment to follow you on a journey of faith. It is with Christ that we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ben. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. We're going to have some updates and then some additional information. And after that, we'll have a time to answer any questions. So if you have questions, please use the Q&A function on your Zoom, and the panelists will be able to see the questions. But be sure you have your name displayed on the Zoom so we can acknowledge the question by name. First, I'm going to begin and highlight some key events and celebrations since we had our last meeting. In March, we welcomed Reverend Kevin Gray as our new minister of music. Kevin joined us in March, but his first Sunday as music director was Palm Sunday. Besides being an excellent musician and a creative composer, he also has a beautiful voice. As anyone who's interacted with him can tell you, he has a kind spirit and a compassionate heart and is truly a wonderful addition to our staff. Also in March, we concluded our 25th year of participation in Room at the Inn, where we provide meals and shelter for our homeless neighbors. On May 6th, we participated in the 27th annual Rain Walk, and we received an award for the church congregation with the largest donation to the walk of $16,000 and the third highest overall donation to the Rain Walk. We also had 35 walkers, which was our largest group in all the 27 years we'd participated. Also for Rain, we had a benefit concert by renowned vocalist Callie Day on May 21st. And another great addition to our programming, we also launched our senior adult ministry and began monthly lunches with a program designed by our new senior team. This group continues to grow, and it's so exciting to see all the energy around this new endeavor. Our 80th anniversary initiative, Tell Me Your Story, concluded with a session in May, which was Women's History Month, and past women lay leaders interviewed. And then in June, Pride Month, interviewees were several of our LGBT couples. This summer was also our 10th anniversary as a sponsor of Freedom School, a summer reading and enrichment program at Pinewood Elementary. To date, we have helped over 500 children avoid summer learning loss. Next week is the finale in Heaton Hall for the scholars and their parents. We've had 2 new navigating classes and added 23 new members so far this year and have plans to begin another navigating group in early fall. We also created new affinity-based groups for relationship building and in keeping with our focus on engagement. Lots more is coming for fall, and I can't wait to see what we're going to do next. A couple more announcements before we move to the presentations. First of all, I want to thank everyone who's already responded to our call to update the church records. We've already received updates from almost 500 of you. And if you have not responded yet, you still have time. There's a link in the weekly, and you should have also received an email on Monday with the instructions and contact information. Lastly, I wanted to make you aware that once again, we're hearing from some church members that we should consider dropping Baptist from our name. The church has discussed removing the word Baptist from our name for more than 3 decades. The Southern Baptist Convention voted to exclude us in 2001 for inclusivity of LGBTQ people. At that time, we affiliated with more progressive Baptist groups like Alliance of Baptists. Recently, the Southern Baptist Convention decided to kick out any churches with women ministers. So many churches have already removed the word Baptist from their name. We have heard from some of our members their concerns that the word Baptist might also be a hindrance by association, as it can be a negative to prospective new members wanting to join a progressive church. Earlier this year, we offered an online survey asking congregants what their preference for our name would be. We recently included the results again in the weekly. As a result of conversations and emails with members, I have asked Bob Thomason to assemble a small team of respected church lay leaders to review survey results and investigate legal ramifications, other considerations from considering a name change. This group will report their findings to the deacons along with any recommendations. The deacons will consider any recommendations, and if approved, we will bring it to the congregation for a final vote at that time. We do know that changing our name would not change our governance model or our affiliation with the Alliance of Baptists. After 80 years as Myers Park Baptist Church, we're not considering changing our name lightly. As this group is just beginning its work, that's all the information I have for you at this point, but we will keep you updated. At our February meeting, I highlighted our 3 areas of focus for this year. As we're halfway through the year, I wanted to update you on our progress of these initiatives. We're very fortunate to have so many talented lay leaders on our board, and I've asked several of them to help with this presentation. So first, Carrie, if you want to move to the next slide, we're going to have Richard Harris give our financial sustainability and stewardship report. Richard.
Thanks, Karen. I really appreciate it. Welcome everybody to our call. I'm here to talk about the finances at Myers Park Baptist Church. We're going to start by reviewing the 2023 finances from January until May. So let me start with 3 things of importance, and Carrie, you can go ahead and flip to the next slide. First and most importantly, thank you for everyone for giving generously to the church. Your monetary gifts provided Myers Park Baptist with the ability to continue its transformational work. Second, we need to remember that the summer months are typically slow months for houses of worship, particularly when it comes to cash flows. Myers Park Baptist is no different. And then finally, we need to thank our staff each and every time we see them for maintaining a laser-like focus upon expenses. So I'm sure you're asking yourself, what do these 3 things have in common? Well, they allowed Myers Park Baptist to be well ahead of budget for the first 5 months. That translates into a deficit of about $126,000 versus a budgeted deficit of about $200,000. While nobody likes a deficit, the $77,000 differential to our budget is a testament to strong levels of giving and expense management to date. So let's just go down and take a couple things from the revenue category. First, congregational giving through pledges collected year to date totaled $345,000 versus budget of just right around the same number. The good news here, pledge collections is strong at 99.9% versus budget, and that is really incredible, and that should be celebrated. Myers Park Baptist revenues from renting its facilities remains white hot. So what do we mean by that? Year to date, May rental revenues totaled $51,000 or 120% over budget. And I would just really like to thank our staff for fulfilling this component of the financial sustainability plan, as well as to the congregation for its flexibility as Myers Park continues to look to rent out our facility that primarily goes unused during the week. On the expenditure side here, you'll see, May 2023 year-to-date expenditures totaled $688,000, which is roughly 13% below budget and significantly helps our church manage its cash flows during the slow summer months. It's also worth noting here that about 15% of all dollars spent by Myers Park Baptist came from the endowment, another source of congregational generosity. And just to reiterate something that we like to say time and time again about the endowments, particularly for the Forever Forward endowment, that specific endowment is used towards budgeted facilities maintenance. At the bottom of the page here, there's a call to action. In the reason we put that there is traditionally the summer months are slow financially. So if anybody feels so inclined to satisfy part or all of their 2023 pledge, or even go above and beyond, please do so, because your gifts will assist the church's financial sustainability, and more importantly, its transformational work. Carrie, do you mind flipping to the next slide? So here, it's not a financial review without a breakdown of the financials. The slide here shows the year-to-date financials through May 2023. I'd like for you to draw your eye to the expenditure breakdown. It's important to note that quite a few of the ministries have yet to fully utilize their budgeted amounts year to date. Simply stated, the budget was prepared using spend patterns of prior years. Now, we all know that spend patterns aren't always the greatest predictors. That said, the church should expect that these ministries will fully utilize their allocations by fiscal year end. Another thing that we should expect, we should expect that Myers Park Baptist will break even or come close by the end of the year. Carrie, do you mind flipping to the next slide? All right. This is a very informative slide that was developed to show revenues and expenses from a trending perspective. A simple reading of these graphs will show that the current trend line is comparable to those in 2021 and 2022. I really dig this slide just from the visual perspective, and if anybody would like a copy of that, just please reach out to see me, and I'll get it to you. Carrie, do you mind flipping to the next slide here? So this is a great slide that graphically represents our expenditures across its three funding sources, and we got to remember those are number one, the budget, number two, the endowment, and number three, designated funds, which are held on balance sheet. This shows the expenditures in granular detail per ministry or expense bucket. In addition, this slide here speaks to one of the recommendations from our stewardship consultant, Generis, who suggested that we continue to provide the congregation with additional granular detail on our three buckets of spending. Thematically, what we see here is that Myers Park Baptist is reliant upon its endowment, which through the first 5 months of the year totaled about 15% of the total expenditures at the church. Carrie, do you mind flipping to the next slide, please? All right, so this is one of my favorites here. This is the 2024 budgetary process. We're showing this because everything is in full swing here, and the slide, is great as it shows the reader exactly, the progress towards the goal. As it stands today, the ministries are putting together their budgets for 2024, and they're due no later than August 9th. The key takeaway from everybody on this slide should be that every penny at Myers Park Baptist Church matters. And how do we know this? We know it because the budget goes through many steps with various levels of engagement and oversight from the laity. Said differently, our budgets are not created in a vacuum. Carrie, do you mind going to the next slide? All right, this slide here is important from the perspective of Myers Park Baptist strategic plan, specifically financial sustainability. Those on the Zoom tonight will probably recall an iteration of this slide back from the February 2023 congregational meeting, where we presented the financial sustainability plan. So I just kind of want to give you a very brief reminder as to what was discussed in February. So in the fall of 2021, a financial sustainability working group was formed to think of potential ways for our church to create additional alternative sources of revenues. The group focused upon improving, refining, and enhancing the church's financial profile. And the group spent a lot of time tilling the soil and quickly came to the realization that multiple levers with multiple time horizons must be pulled. So said differently, one additional item will not be a silver bullet financially. So let me give you a quick update at the plan, which is at the bottom here. We're to better utilize our available resources. So that means, white hot revenues, year to date through May 2023, our rental revenues, again, are 120% above budget. And we need to thank our staff for making this happen. Another item here is finding unique partnerships with Queens University, our next door neighbor. Myers Park Baptist is in ongoing discussions with Queens about the university utilizing some space at Myers Park Baptist. If anything is to come of that, we will definitely get the Board of Deacons and the congregation up to speed quickly. The hope here is that, we can make something work, from a rental perspective here. The next item on the table, expanding childcare. This is specific to potentially growing or creating and growing a full-day childcare program. Right now, the church is currently trying to determine feasibility. Another item here, the camps at Cornwall Center are very strong. This is something that we had called out. And so thanks to the Cornwall Center staff for reinvigorating the camps there this summer. They were very, oversubscribed, which was just phenomenal. And then the next item here is grant writing. And, this is a place that Myers Park Baptist seized upon immediately. Bethany Johnson's going to speak to this here in just a moment. In addition, Myers Park Baptist is, reviewing other grants to potentially write as well. And as we, start to identify and start to grant write those, we will keep everybody abreast of the situation. So Karen, back to you.
Okay, next up, we do have Bethany Johnson, and she is our Strategic Planning Committee Chair, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about some of the grant work.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming to our meeting tonight. We have a really exciting story to tell about a massive grant that we just submitted at the end of June. And if we go to the next slide, Pastor Carey, I'll get you all some information on that. So the Lilly Endowment is a really important organization. They're probably the biggest congregational grant giver in the US. And we pursued something called the Thriving Congregations Initiative. I have some information on the slide about Lilly itself. And just like Richard said, if anyone wants to see these slides for, to make sure you get every word, I'm happy to send those to you. In late 2022, we heard about this grant from people who have been funded by Lilly Endowment. And they said, hey, you all are a perfect fit for this year. You have to read the request for proposals. Your church is already doing this, so you got to get this funding. And we brought it to the Board of Deacons. We decided to send our letter of intent in March. We sent on Zoom. We had Karen Taylor, Bob Thomason, and Carol Reed go to information sessions to help us get prepared to follow the process correctly. And then we spent the next 3 months between March and June, a bunch of people putting in hundreds of hours to write what ended up being a more than 65-page grant. And we submitted it June 21st. We hope to hear at the end of October how we've done. And we hope to hear good news. But what is really important is that we decided to do the grant in late 2022, and we actually handed it in June of 2023. It went through staff and clergy discussions, 3 to 4 months of Board of Deacons discussions. And in the end, the Board of Deacons decided that when we submitted this grant, if we were to get the money, we would accept it. And so now let me tell you what the money is and what we're using it for on the next slide. So you can request up to $1.25 million over a 5-year period. We ended up at $1.223 million over 5 years for the request. We focused our grant, as any strategic grant application folks will do. You give them what they want. You make sure you're a good fit for the grant, and then you ask them to fund what they would like to fund. I know a lot of people in our church do this kind of work and are familiar with that strategy. So what were their areas of focus this year? 2 of the ones that we were already hitting on, they were looking for churches that use digital technologies to effectively support their ministries, and they were looking for ministries that were doing racial justice work. And we already have that. So what are the benefits to us of asking for this money, to us as a congregation, to us as members, and to us as a campus? There is $400,000 in this grant that offers direct staff and clergy support through hiring. So it covers 5 years of a digital minister who will work with our in-person folks, our virtual folks, and also take on much of the administration for our Confronting Whiteness ministry, which is that racial justice ministry that is virtual. This was also a recommendation by Generis. Richard's going to get back to the stewardship piece in just a minute, but Generis did say one of the ways you can tie your church more closely together is by having a digital minister, and this is what churches need to succeed. And so we built that into our grant. We also have $100,000, a little under that, to upgrade Heaton Hall. Lights, allow live streaming, doing speakers and things like that. So it will allow us to use the space in a new way. And hopefully, again, reflecting back what the finance deacons are working on, it will allow us to bring in a lot more rental revenue. So Carrie, take us to the final slide, if you would. So I just want to celebrate this. I think it's really great that we were able to come together and do this in our 80th year, because this is the single largest grant. I think the second largest grant in our church's history was $50,000. So this is a huge, huge leap for us. If we have the opportunity, even if we get partially funded by Lilly Endowment, this will be just incredible for our church and such big news. And it also is demonstrative of our ability as lay leaders to partner with clergy and staff to put together a comprehensive, competitive grant application. It means we can do it again, and we will. And we're already looking at more grants. So I hope that we all can celebrate this together. Even if we don't get any money, the fact that we did the grant application is a great omen for the future. And I guess I'm handing it back to Richard now.
Thank you. I think Richard did his stewardship, some of his stewardship, but he's going to kind of give us a conclusion in the next part. So, okay, Richard, you're up.
Yeah, appreciate it. So I know we've reviewed a ton of information, so I'll be quick here. We put together a few takeaways. Number one, congregational support is key if our church, wishes to continue its transformational work. Remember, we're currently ahead of budget, but we'll likely end the year at close to or break even. Myers Park Baptist continues to be laser focused upon finding alternative sources of revenues. Another thing that the church is looking to do is improve its stewardship model. And how we did that is we ended up hiring a consultant called Generis to come through and provide a stewardship audit and give us feedback on how we can improve our current stewardship model. The consultant's findings and suggestions for us for improvement, are as follows. Our church needs to tell its story so often that givers know the full impact of their generosity. And this includes regular, bold preaching on giving from the pulpit. Another item of note, clearly define a theological basis for giving that fits our church's values. Specifically, another item here, why should the church be the top priority for one's giving? And then we have a recommendation that there be an expectation that all members give generously. And then finally, a very important one, consider changing the annual stewardship campaign back to the fall. Now, we have a stewardship committee that is currently looking at a lot of this stuff. I can tell you that there's going to be some recommendations that are escalated to the Board of Deacons probably as soon as their August meeting. So, we're very excited about this and some of these potential changes that are coming to our stewardship plan. Hopefully, it will help us reinvigorate, what truly is one of the lifebloods of our church. So finally, your generosity matters. Without you and your giving, Myers Park Baptist Church couldn't do its transformational work. So I just appreciate, anything and everything that everybody is doing here from a financial perspective. So with that, Karen, I'll just hand it back to you.
Thanks. Okay, Carrie, the next slide should be, we're going to update on engagement and some of the new activities and things that we're working on in a new group that has been formed by Morris Green, and Scott Crowder is going to give us an update.
Hello, good evening. Can everyone hear me? If you're wondering why it looks like I'm in a strange space, this was our engagement meeting, monthly meeting evening, and Carla so graciously hosted us up at her office up on the campus of UNCC. So a couple of us remained, and we're having a remote congregational meeting watch party. So we thought that was kind of exciting. So just taking a few moments, we're just so excited. I've been around for a couple of decades, and this is just such a real exciting project and committee that I got involved with. Morris Green put our group together, and you can see the 6 of us, our names, which are the last sentence of this slide. And really, we just wanted to, now that we've been back for COVID, just really get some energy and organization around all the opportunities that we have. And there are so many wonderful opportunities coming around the bend this fall, from more faith formation classes, the LG events that Carla's putting together, the Hush Harbor items that Tara and her group are putting together. So Morris got us together. We've been meeting for a couple of months, and some of the things that we're immediately working on is really improving our messages and our marketing, through the use of social media and the website, etc. We're going to really take advantage of this new congregate database realm that I know you've been hearing about and reading about. All of you would have probably gotten the letter by now that explained that. So through the power of that database, we can now, for the first time, really capture everyone's interest and skills and desires, and really also, again, capture what groups, what topics that you're interested in, and that'll really help us mirror needs and fellowship opportunities and outreach opportunities. And really, the primary function of this group is to really match those interests to opportunities that are around the campus. You're gonna see our faces, hear from us. We're gonna very soon, we want to start hanging out in the narthex, a couple of us each Sunday, introducing the program and presenting you with a card or a QR code that you can go out and enter what areas and types of things interest you. We're gonna, all of us will be present and have a presence following a Sunday morning worship in September. We're working on what that exact date will be. So just a really exciting opportunity. I hope you'll stay tuned. I hope you'll respond to us and help us update the database with your interests and needs and skill sets. And that will really just help us get you plugged in. So look to hear from us very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Believe it or not, this fall will be here before you know it, and it'll be time for deacon nominations. And Carla Hines, who's the chair of our leadership deacons, is going to give us just sort of run through the process, and for a reminder for our longer term members, and to go over it for any newer members. Carla.
Thanks so much, Karen. Great, wonderful. This is a process I'm really excited about. I am actually a part of the deacon board because of it. And it's so congregation driven because everyone has a vote. It's really important, even for those who've been with the organization for quite some time, to remind folks of the qualifications for the deacons. Obviously, one of the things we want are folks that are actively engaged in the church, those who have demonstrated financial support of the budgetary requirements of MPBC. Richard has just finished talking a little bit about some of the great things that we've done at Myers Park Baptist Church. And obviously, we want folks on board who believe in that and who support that. The individuals selected have to have spiritual qualities consistent with the deacon covenant. These are a lot of things that we will make available as we continue and get closer to the actual nomination period. This is really critical. This bullet is one I like because it's one I'm never shy to share. Has to be open to new ideas and ready to listen. We are a church that very much believes in trying to work together to keep the church thriving and sustain the church, obviously. So we have to be open to new ideas, and we have to be willing to listen. And must be willing to treat sensitive issues with the appropriate level of confidentiality. That all goes into what a good deacon needs to be. Those not eligible for nomination are indicated on the slide as well. Those without 2 years breaks from serving on the deacon board, and obviously the spouses and partners of those of senior staff and those on the leadership deacons. Before you know it, we will be in September. There's a lot of work that goes into planning for this process because, as I indicated before, it involves all members of the congregation, obviously the deacon board. So there are a lot of pieces that we have to make sure that go in lockstep. We'll be presenting the nomination ballot. We're going to make it available in several different formats, electronically, in the church program, and the narthex. So it's going to be hard to miss it because we believe this is a very important process. The nominations are accepted from the congregation, and you can nominate, each member can nominate up to 6 candidates. Those top 3 candidates nominated by the congregation are included in the slate. Additional candidates are nominated by the leadership deacons to ensure that the slate includes the demographics of the church. Again, as growing, thriving churches, one of the things we want to do, we are largely built on our dedication to inclusivity. So we have to make sure, obviously, that our slate is inclusive. That slate is voted on by the Board of Deacons. We confirm the slate of nominees to be presented to the congregation. And then last but not least, that slate is presented to the congregation for affirmation vote during worship. And like I said, this is the part where you come in. So you can give thought to those individuals that you think that meet the qualifications indicated on this slide. Keep those thoughts and those names ready so that when we get to the nomination process, you'll be ready to actively participate. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Carla. So Carrie, I think we are now at the questions section, and I think we just have a few questions, Ben.
Yeah, I'll start. We've got some questions and some comments, and anybody who's got one, feel free to drop one in the Q&A featured there down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And these questions can be regarding any part of the report that we've had tonight. I'll start with some comments here. We've got a comment from Bob Thomason that says, I want to compliment Ben and the staff. We're working with Betsy Thigpen and her team to create the new senior ministry. The lunch this past Wednesday was fantastic. Thanks, Bob. We did have a really great turnout and an incredible session planned by our committee just yesterday. It was really wonderful. We also have some questions here from Hadley Parker. One question, Hadley asks, what Baptist churches have changed their names so far? Can you compile a list? So far is a long time. Baptist churches have been changing their name for many, many years in relationship to what the Southern Baptist Convention is doing, and also just as a marketing strategy. We could compile a list, but it would be in the thousands. And you can look for articles related to this. Just look Baptist churches changing names and put that in a Google search, and you're going to get a bunch of articles about churches that have been considering this for a long time. Some of whom have changed their name, some of whom decided not to. I was a part of a church in Alexandria that changed their name about 20 years ago. And so it's been going on for quite some time. The other thing I would say about that is that we have learned that in relationship to this most recent event from the Southern Baptist Convention kicking out churches that affirm women in ministry, that Binkley Baptist, one of our fellow Baptist churches in the Alliance here in North Carolina, which has historic connections to our church, having shared clergy in the past, is considering changing their name and removing Baptist. Another question from Hadley is, can the church send out the slide deck in the weekly? We're definitely going to be able to send out to you a recording of this. It's going to be in the weekly, a recording of this meeting, and I'm sure that either Bethany or Richard will be willing to share their slide deck as they mentioned. So thank you, Hadley. Great question there. Let's see, we have a question here from Anna Parker. What types of events and what areas of the church are we renting out when we do rent it out? And what staff is required to be at those events if it's outside of regular working hours? And then also a question about what protocols are in place to ensure safety and security for all involved and who are present at the church. So we have a pretty rigorous rental policy that we have put in place that has been managed by Rainey Underwood for many, many years. Rainey is the second longest serving employee in the church's history and manages all of our rentals. And so we're renting out whatever spaces which are that are not predominantly used by church on Sundays, Wednesdays, and other times. And there are a lot of them in our church that are almost never utilized. We have a very large campus. We're fortunate to have such a large campus, but a lot of it goes totally unutilized for many days a week. So for most of the week, actually. So we have protocols in place to ensure safety. There are, of course, security deposits and safety protocols, locking and unlocking doors, which we have a security system now for that is managed by our church administrator. And then, of course, we have staff who is present at that, but in every rental agreement, there is an amount of money that is set aside as a part of the rental agreement for staff coverage for those events, so that staff are paid from that. But aside from the protocols, I think there's a larger question here about rentals in general, and I want to turn it to Bethany, head of strategic, to speak to that.
I will say that strategic deacons and finance deacons have partnered really closely on financial sustainability this year, and we charged the clergy with the permission of the Board of Deacons to really seek out more rentals. We have around 30,000 square feet on campus, and about 27,500 of that is empty all week, every week. So when we think about maintaining our space, taking care of our space, and keeping sacred spaces sacred, the way that we can do that is to open it up to people who are interested. Now, I will make two other points that I think it was helpful that you brought up, Anna. The folks that are usually seeking out using our space, particularly in this season, they know who we are and their values generally align with us. So two examples I can give you. There's one room that hasn't been used in 7 years, and it's going to be a parenting class, peaceful parenting and gender inclusive and all of the things that are really meaningful to us. And it's also going to create play space for young children and their caretakers from age 0 to 36 months. It's called The Authentic Nest. You're welcome to look it up. That contract starts in November. And then Leanne brought in a woman who uses our kitchen, which hasn't been used. And it's a Black woman entrepreneur. And we're really excited that she's using the kitchen, which is just has hay bales rolling through it the rest of the time. So this feels really life-giving to us, to leaders in our church. And if you're not on campus much, definitely ask folks that are around. We're hearing good stuff from folks in our church too. They're not having trouble accessing spaces, and it makes them happy to see smiling people using the space. So I hope that helps. Richard can give us a little more of an idea of how that works from a budgetary standpoint and what it means for the economic lifeblood of our church. Yeah, thanks, Bethany. I don't really have much to add. I think you guys really hit the nail on the head. I think the key takeaway here is about 75+% of our biggest asset, our facilities, goes unused. Yet but when it goes unused, we're still heating it, we're still cooling it, we're still paying power. So we need to find ways to better utilize this wonderful gift that has been bestowed upon our church through generous giving. When our financial sustainability group got together, one of the key ideas was trying to get the rental revenues back up to where it was pre-pandemic. So now we're doing that. And it's very important because, again, having multiple streams of income is very important when it comes to managing a business. And this is just another alternative source of revenue for our church.
Thank you. Ben, have we got any more that you want to bring?
I think we've got one more to do here so far. This is also from Hadley Parker. Are the additional candidates nominated by the leadership deacons to ensure that the slate includes demographics of church, a new format this year? I don't recall this particular bullet point from previous years. I could be mistaken. Yeah, there's nothing new about the deacon election process this year. What Carla meant by leadership deacons, they're not adding new nominations, but they are managing those who have already been nominated and putting together a slate in addition to the top three. The top three vote getters get asked as long as they are qualified based on the credentials of what a deacon needs to be at Myers Park Baptist Church. And then so those top three are always asked. And then whoever else somebody has to have at least one nomination, but the amount of nominations are considered for the rest of the slate by the leadership deacons when they get gathered together. And that's the same process that we've had for a very long time.
Thanks. So this actually concludes the information part of our meeting. And I want to thank everybody for your time and your attention. I have one more thing I wanted to mention before we go, and it is a coming event, but I think it bears mentioning. On Thursday, September 7th is the 20th anniversary of the Cornwall Center. And on September the 9th, there will be an anniversary festival on the grounds, and it's in the weekly, and it will be in the weekly, more information. But I encourage you to look at that. There's a lot of festivities planned. There'll be food trucks. There'll be all kinds of things. And as we are a one campus model, I think we should all want to support the Cornwall Center for being so successful for 20 years in our church. If you have any other questions or you think of any questions, if you will email us, we will be happy to send your question to the appropriate person. You could email Ben, Carrie, or I, and we'd be happy to send it on to you, and someone will get back to you. And I wanted to also mention that, and I think it did already come up, we are going to record this. It is being recorded, and soon it will be available in the weekly. So the entire meeting, for those people that might be away and didn't want to break up their vacation for getting on a Zoom call, would be available. The last thing I want to say is that we are working very hard, and our intention is to have an in-person meeting in the fall. So we'll get back to you on the date and time for our next congregational meeting. And thank you to everyone for taking your time tonight.